How about now? Can you see it?
Okay, you got them now.
Yeah, okay, maybe now. Okay. Oh. Hang on, hang on.
Hit Zoom, I think. All right. Now you can bring the screen in. This is it.
Let's see. Hang on. Hang on, hang on, hang on. Hang on. Hang on. This computer, this board's going nuts.
Yeah.
Let's see what there's more. It's not doing.
But you want to bring up your lessons?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do this. Let's see. Hang on. Yeah, it's being recorded. What? Yeah, I can too. Finally. Okay, wait. I don't even know what I had. I can't see what's going on. What was going on? Can y'all see me if nothing else?
Yes.
All right. Okay, this thing's going nuts here. It's got its own little, and it wants to. It gets temperamental sometimes.
Yeah.
But we're seeing a directory with a bunch of files in it. It looks like lesson files.
Trying to bring up the.
I'm trying to bring all this up now. These lessons. Okay, is it going now, Desiree? Okay.
Halloween words on.
Now, can y'all hear me? Can y'all see me if nothing else?
Yes. I can see conversation phrases.
All right, here we go. I had a good lesson of it and I lost it. This thing is not, it does what it wants to do every day. Something different every day. Okay.
So she had to turn it off and reset it.
Yeah, I had to turn it off and reset and do all this other stuff. All right. Mado. Okay, guys. Hello? I'm teaching right now. Call me back, okay? So, Istungan Jokayadega. Istungan Jokayadega. That's one. Istungan Jokayadega God. Okay? All right. Look here. This is not it. I had some good lessons up here that just disappeared with the idea. Okay, here it is. Here's one of them that I had. We're kind of going back over. It says Dalek Duxidos. You know, this can mean anything. The bread is moldy. It can mean your bread at home. But for our people, it means sour cornbread. But we don't say Dalek Duxi in my area. I say Dalek Komukshi. Exactly the way it sounds, sour. Sour is Komukshi. Duxi means molded or, molded. And that can mean any kind of bread. So when I talk about like sour cornbread that we make, I say Dalek Komukshi. Jinda Ella, how do you say it?
Magiros, amigo. Kamokse.
Yeah.
Dakle kamokse.
Yeah, that's the way I say it. But now a lot of people around here, they say Dalek Duxi. Bread is moldy, but I could be talking about light bread, when I say Dalek Duxi. So I grew up with Dalek, like when you're making sour bread. The long man was tall. Istijapko mahi dues. This make it sound like somebody saw it, ain't it? Somebody had to see this in this sentence because it says the long man was tall. Somebody actually saw it. So Istijapko is long man. Okay? And we have that man in our people. They talk about Istijapko. In fact, next weekend they're gonna have a Halloween storytelling at John Tiger's house. And you know, people show up and tell stories down there. Now, these are actual stories, scary stories that they have experienced as Muskogee people. And I've had my experiences, you know, with things that's unexplainable. And so Istijabko, you know, they told me my aunt experienced it, my great aunt actually. She was a she was an older lady, and you know, you talk about living. This was back in 75. They still lived with no running water and no back in 75 now. This was back in 75. They still didn't live. Um, uh, they still live with the lamps, and they still drew their water from a spring, you know, and you know, they didn't have these modern stuff, much less a TV. The one, he would play a battery operated radio. That's how he listened to things. And well, you know, he said she experienced Istijabko, you know, Istijabko, and that house is still standing. I took a trip down there um, maybe about a year or two ago during the pandemic, and it was still standing. It's gonna fall in, but it was still standing. So Istijabko actually translates to a long man, but he's tall. So I don't know how this came about, but look at this. Istijabko mahi dues. Dues means it was, so somebody saw it the way this is written. Somebody saw it. So see how these things are going, okay? Isti adilogat asida jayajidos. I like being around where people gather. And people gathers around I like being. That's what it's saying. Adilogat means they're gathering. Asida is to be around it. Jayaji is like dos. Okay. Jugo, duhopki, afolutki, dues, or duis. See, somebody might be trying to tell somebody the house has got a fence around it that goes around it. Okay. Somebody might have given directions and said that the house has a fence that goes around the house. Jugo is house. Duhopki is fence. You don't hear a lot of these words like duhopki. Duhopki, they don't use that anymore. You know, duhopki is a fence. And so people don't use these words anymore like duhopki. Afolutki duis. A fence goes around the house, but look here, house, fence goes around. That's all you need. That's all you need. Any questions so far on this? And remember, I told you I was going to teach you the way I speak. Owala sakobandida ithigoduis. Owala is a teller, tells the future. You know, my grandma used to tell me, well, one of my great uncles, they were twins. One was a Owala. One was a Owala. And my grandma said that he could tell, you know, and there have to be well taken care of. Well, and when I'm saying well, I'm talking beyond how you take care of the babies. A walla can tell the future, they can tell what kind of and what can help you. And back then, you know, we had medicine. So this child, my great uncle, and you know their names were Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel. And Abel was the Owala. He could tell what was wrong with a person, and my grandma said he would be like 5 or 6 years old, and people would come visit him, and he would tell them what was wrong with them, what was making them sick, and who can help them, and what could help them. And you know, back then they had medicine men, they didn't have doctors. So now this Awala we're talking about is a click bug, okay? It says Awala Shakubanida Hithiko Duis. It's not good to play with a click bug. But see, click bug. We didn't say a tiller, we called it a click bug, but it's called a Awala. And you know, we used to play with them, and my boy, I don't know how many times we got in trouble for playing with us. If you put it down or put it on its back, it would go. And my mom said that was going to tell how long your life was. That was going to tell how long your life was. So we wouldn't get, you know, we would play with it just to hear the ticking. And I don't know if we even paid attention to how much that thing ticked, but we would play with it. But they called it Walla because they told how long you were going to live. And you know, an Walla can be a person. A Walla can be a person because, like I said, one of my great uncles, it would have been, yeah, one of my great uncles, they were twins. And a twin was really reverend back in the Muskogee world because one of them was a Walla. One of them was a Walla, but you had to take care of them to the point of like, and they were taken care of, and they have to speak the language. They had to speak language, or they wouldn't be able to take. So this, my grandma said her brothers, you know, she was older than them. She said that people would come visit her little brother when he was like 6 years old, and he would tell them what was wrong. And you know, I wished I was around to see that. I think that would have been something to see. There was something to believe in fortune tellers like we do, or future tellers, you know, like we do. But they said, you know, people would show up and he would tell them, this is what's going to help you, this is what's wrong with you. And they said he was just a little bitty fellow. And you know, I have a set of twins. But mine was a girl and a boy, and of course we lost the little boy, but the girl was the one that was supposed to be the Owala. And when she was real little, like when she started talking about 4, she would tell us weird things. Weird things. And you know, it never came to me because I told my husband, there's something wrong with our baby. I said, there's something wrong with our baby. I said, she says that she heard this or she sees this. And she'll say, like, she'll tell me that person's no good. Or she would say that person's evil. And she was just like 4, and I would tell her, no, don't say that, you know, don't talk that way. And I finally told my husband, you know, this, she's not right, is what I told my husband. This child is not right. And it went on until one day I was talking to my mom, and I said, you know, he's like this, Mom. And I said, I don't know what's wrong with her. And she said, Becky, she said she was a twin. And she's seeing things. She's feeling it. She said, there ain't nothing wrong with her. She said she was a twin. And then I said, oh, I never, you know, I never connected that because it was my child. Never thought even nothing about it until my mom told me. And then I got it. And now she wasn't a strange child. In the European world, she was. But in our world, she wasn't. And I finally started understanding when she'd say, there's a little girl out there playing on my swing set. And she just, out of the blue, she'd say, there's a little girl playing on my swing set. And I'd say, you know, and I would ask sometimes, what little girl? And she said, that little girl out there. Or somebody would come to her house and she would just ignore them, completely ignore them. And I'd say, baby, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to shake hands. Now she doing that. And she said she was evil. And she wouldn't come out of her room. She went to our room, which, you know, she slept in our room. And she would go back there and never come out. And I said, baby, you need to come out now. And I talked to her that night after the person left. I would say, how come you acted that way? You're not supposed to act this way. And she said, because she was evil. And my mom said, that's because she feels her. She feels her. And then she would say, I saw somebody out in the backyard. There wouldn't be nobody back there. Or she'd hear, and that worried me until I found out what she was doing. And now it's not as bad. It's not as bad, but she still gets these. And now she's old enough. She's in her 30s. So she knows now. She'll say, Mom, and she'll tell me. And I say, good or bad? She say, I don't know yet. Good or bad? And then later, she may wait 3 days and she'll say, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. We had a cousin that passed away. She asked me about it. I thought about him about a week before that, but then she told me, she said, I didn't see him because I wasn't going to see him. I don't know what she meant by that. I never will. But that's a owala. And a bug, click bug is a owala. Coffee is smoska. Listen, look, coffee.
Mvhayv,
Yeah.
what does a click bug look like? Because I don't know that I've seen one.
They're little black bugs, about this big. They're kind of long,
Uh-huh.
black, and they're hard. They got a hard shell. And they run around mostly at night, like under the light, like at night. They kind of run around and they're black, but like this. I won't tell my girls what they are because I know they'll be playing with it. But they're about like that. And they're solid black, and they got hard shells. But if you take it and put it on their back, they go like that. They make that tick tick tack sound. And the reason why they didn't like us to play with them, they said, in Hagi job, they don't know why. When they make that sound for a long time, you had a long life. But if it was short, you had short life.
So would it be something like a stink bug?
It kind of, no, it looks different from it. It's slender, it's long and about like this, but it's slender, got a slender body, and it's got a hard shell and it's solid black.
I guess I've never seen one. I don't.
We were called it a walla. We never knew it as a click bug. I had to look it up to see what a click bug was. And because it made that sound, it clicked. And that's how I got the deal there, got the name. But we called it a walla. Coffee is muska hobangidos. Coffee is coffee, but it's Creeklish. Ismoska means coffee boiler is broken. The coffee maker is broken. We didn't have coffee makers. So we call it coffee boiler. We didn't even have coffee until European contact. But coffee ismoska means coffee boiler. Sakchuga manadaskidos. I have a dipper that my mother had. I don't know if you can find dippers anymore. Like I said yesterday, I've looked and I can't find them. And I don't know if they even have any more dippers. But I still got one hanging in my kitchen because you hung it up. You didn't lay it on a counter. It was hung up. So I still got mine hanging up. And I still use it. I still use that. And so it says, dipper, there, hanging is. And in English, it would be the dippers hanging there. And that's all people used was dippers. They didn't have foam cups. They didn't have this. Even at church, they had a dipper hanging up. A dipper was always hanging somewhere. In my kitchen, it's hanging on above my sink. I got it hanging. My husband fixed me he put a little sticky thing up there where it'll hang, and that's where I hang it. And it's still hanging there to this day, and it's still being used. But I went looking for one. I went, Muskogee, in Muskogee, Oklahoma, they have a lot of these antique stores and hardware stores. We went looking, never could find one. I couldn't find one. I don't know if I will ever be able to find one. I don't know, they might have it somewhere, but I need to look on a website maybe and see if I can find one. And my girls knows what it is, dipper. Sentences using, okay, nafkabuji, dime. We deal with dimes every day, every day. It's called a nafkabuji. Nafkabuji. That means a little bit in the middle. Choga okhayayejas. Okhayayejas. Okhayayejas means taking a light and shining it on something. Sometimes when we're eating, sometimes at the grounds, they'll have one table and the food's on there. Some people will carry a flashlight, so they can see what they're getting, like food, And that's just means shine a light on it. But it also, when you say joga, it's saying explain it. Explain what this is saying, or put a light on what this is saying. Because a lot of people that really didn't know English would come to my mom, and they would have their letter with them, and they'd say, "Joga amokhayaye, just explain this paper to me. Explain it. Tell me what it's saying." And so she would. She would tell him, she'd read the paper, and then she would tell him what the paper was saying. And there was quite a few people that came to my mother, and she would tell them, this is what the paper is telling you, or is saying, And she would read it for them and do that, but that's what they would say, Choga, ohayaye, just put a light on this paper, or explain it. And in better words, it would mean explain this paper. So a lot of this is, see how this is used. We can use these in different ways. Okayayedas means explain, especially when it's a paper. Wayo, lobonch koshi duis. Wayo is a flying squirrel. You don't hear that anymore. I don't even know if people see them anymore, but down behind where I live is my mother's place. And on that road, you'll see a lot of little flying squirrels. They're little and they're gray. And my girls called them ithel, a squirrel. Ithel is a squirrel. But I told them it's not a squirrel. They're called wayo. Wayo. See, ithel and wayo. Ithel is a squirrel, but a wayo is a flying squirrel. And they'll fly from one tree to another. They got little things right here under their little arms, and you can see them gliding. And those are called whale, but they're little. They're littler than a squirrel, but they're gray. They're called whale. See, we got a name for that. And see, my girls called it ithel. My grandkids, they'll say ithel, and I said, no, that's not an ithel. That's not an ithel. That's a whale. A whale, and see, that's something new. But it looks like a squirrel. It looks like a squirrel, and sure you would call it ithel. Sure you would. But it's called a whale. Whale. See, these things, this is something that people don't hardly know, and that's why I am telling you what it is. Okay? And this is not something that's every day, but you know what? When my kids called it ithel, that's when I thought, it needs to be told. It needs to be taught. Blind squirrel is a whale. And you know what? They have ijo. Ijo. And when you say ijo, it's a deer. You think of a big deer. But there's little bitty deer that my mom told me that live in the ground. I don't know what the English name for it, but they're called ijomiko. You ever heard of that, Ella? Ijomiko.
Uh-uh.
King of deers. They're about this big. Lobons kusi ijo. She said they live in the ground. No one knows about those either. They're called ijomiko. But and you can call it, they look just like a deer, but they're little bitty. But they're king of deer. Ijomiko. But in Homata is Mama Magadimas. They're the leaders of the deer, but they're about this big. They're little bitty, like little ijoji. And my daughters called them ijoji. And I said, see, just like a squirrel. They said ijoji, a little deer. And I said, mongodos, ijomikodos. See, there's a different name for it. Ijomiko. Any questions so far?
Remember that I live in the desert, so there's things that I don't see like that.
Yeah. And you don't, Mama said that you don't see them out in the woods, that ijomiko. But if you do, bad news. It's a bad omen. But we seen them at the zoo one time. They had them at the zoo. And she wouldn't look at it. We was rocking around. And she said, Ma, ijomiko, huitidos, go the other way. So we kind of went around and I was dying to see it, you know. I didn't know what it was. Because see, they told us stories about it, but never saw it. So I kind of stood back and was looking at it. They were this big. She said they're full-grown deer, but they're just little, and they're called ijomiko. Anyway, my daughters, they said, that's a ijoji. See, a little deer, a small, or a baby deer. She said, no, but ijomikodos. That was a king of deer. It has special powers, she said. She said, it's got special powers. It's got special powers. Look at our ways, guys. Look at what we believe in. And you know, I told my girls, don't ever question what your grandma has told you. Don't question it, don't test it. Don't test it. Don't you ever test this. So it's kind of, you know, we're different. We're different. No, we are different. And I like that different. I like being different. I like this, you know, how I speak. I like the way my life is as a person. We're not like every citizen. In the United States, we're different citizens. Lekir, Nithiesi means last night. You know, anybody can say last night, but we say Nithiesi. Nithiesi, last night. Mesti a July. Mesti is a man. That man. My mom called my husband Mesti all the time. She would call him, she'd say, Mesti da. Dungondalega. She said, is that man living okay? Is he there okay? He was saying, is she all right? Listen to what I said. Mesti da. Dungondalega. That's what she would say. And I said, Dungonlex. Dungonlex. Dull. No one knows what dull is. And I use that on my husband because he didn't know how to speak Creek, but it just came out. I said, Slavka Diffney doors, and I handed it to him, and he kind of just looked at it and looked at me. He goes, yeah. And I said, he said, oh, it's dull. See, I'm used to speaking. So I used it on him, and he kind of looked at me like, what you talking about? You know. But I said, it's dull. He goes, oh, okay. Then he said, say it again. So I said, Slavka is a knife. The knife is dull. Yawn. We do that all the time. In fact, it's contagious. Somebody yawns around you, you are not. No jayida. No jayida. I used that on my grandkids here a couple of days, maybe 3 or 4 days ago, a couple of days ago. And they looked at me like, because they never heard it. I never used it on them. The little boy was sitting there yawning. I said, you know, Josh. And he kind of looked at me. He never questioned me when I speak the language. He kind of looked at me. And I said, and then he yawned again. I said, gee, no, Josh. And he knew then what I meant. He goes, yawning? And I said, see, he gets it. My grandkids get it, but they never ask what, because I told them, if I'm going to teach you, I don't want you to say, what? You just listen to me and you'll finally get it, is what I told him. Because, at first when they first came home and I was teaching them, they'd go, what? I said, that shows me a bad attitude. I want you just to sit there and you will get it, okay? So he just sat there and then he yawned again and I said, Josh. And he got it. And he told me, yawning? I said, yeah. Okay, gopher. We don't have a name for gopher, but you don't hardly see them. And for us, it wasn't good to see them. Egan is short for Egana, remember? We're speaking, cutting off words here and saying how we say it. Egan is a short for Egana. We can say Egan to be formal, but we don't speak that way. We speak in a more, and it's totally understood. Egan Solach Lija. Solach Lija means makes holes in the ground. Egan Solach Lija makes hole in the ground. Okay? Makes hole in the ground. This next one is a mole, and it's supposed to be a K right there between right after the V. It's supposed to be D-A-G-O. Dago. D-A-G-O. It's Dago. It's a mole. And people don't know what that is. They don't know. And I thought, that's one word that I'm going to teach. So you'll know, Dago. Suspenders. And I got this word. I went to, it's either one of the stores that my husband likes to go into. There was a pair of suspenders there that I haven't seen in forever. And I thought, wow, there's a word that people don't know. Shohalatka. Suspenders. Shohalatka. Then this one. I pack my lunch sometimes, like today. On the days that I have to teach, I bring my lunch because I don't have time at 1 o'clock to run and get something and come back because we just got a certain time for lunch. So I usually bring my lunch. It's called halwa. Halwa is packed lunch. Any kind of lunch. I don't care if it's a bologna sandwich. I don't care if it's a ham sandwich. I don't care if it's leftover soup. If it's packed lunch, it's called halwa. You don't have to tell what's in it. You can just say, I got my lunch today, halwa. But it's got to be packed lunch, okay? It's got to be packed. It's halwa. Sand, oktaha. Oktaha. And you know what? There's a town here in Oklahoma called Oktaha. It's supposed to be Oktaha. My grandmother said Oktaha. That's all she called it, not Oktaha. It's not Oktaha, it's Oktaha. Sand. Baksangi, yesterday. We say yesterday all the time, and tomorrow all the time. We say yesterday, Baksangi. We use that tomorrow or yesterday. What'd you have for lunch yesterday? We use that. This is something we use a lot, Now this wrist is not used a lot, but I think it was my granddaughter, one of them hurt their wrist, and I thought, you know what? And I said, Ingi tuktikiga. Listen, Ingi tuk. tikiga. Ingi tok tikiga. That's a wrist. Okay, that's a wrist. Okay, look here. Egg yolk. How many times do you eat an egg? How many times do you eat an egg? Or how many times do you have to buy eggs? Chustagi is the formal word for this. But we say chustak inlani. Inlani is something yellow. Belongs to that egg. It's giving it possession. Chustak inlani, the egg yolk. It belongs to this egg. Egg yolk. Inlani is the yolk, and that means something yellow. The egg yellow. It's an egg yolk. Chustak. We don't say chustak. We can say chustagi inlani, but the way we speak, we say chustak inlani. See how we cut off, how we do this, and that's why I decided I can either teach you formal, but I can also teach you how I speak, because this is how we speak. Is this what you say, Ella?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's understood by speakers. If I went to Ella and said, Chustaki Lani, she knew exactly what I was talking about. Even if I said Chustagi. But I decided, and I don't know if y'all were here yesterday, but I decided I'm going to start doing it the way I speak. The way I speak. I'm going to start doing both ways. It says, is it due to the two vowels that you drop one? Yeah. Well, it's just like, just like English, it's like, it's not slang, but it's the normal that we, yonder. Actually, I don't use yonder. And my husband does to be talking. He'll say over yonder, just to be doing it, because he works with people that speak that way. And he'll say over yonder. I say, oh, because that's not how we talk. I say over there. But he said, and he'll just mess with me. He'll say over yonder. Or he'll even say you and he talks, he and I said, you better quit talking that way, because you're gonna start that way. But he'll say yonder. And I don't use that. I say over there. I said. Listen, asema. Where's the kids? Asema. Binagida. Asema. Jabufa. Asema. Dalofa. Town. Over there. Dalofa. Asema. Okay, ase. See? We'll say asema. Where's the ball? Asema. Bukoda. That's what it's saying. Where's the ball? Asema. Dalegidudo. Asema. Where do they live? Over there. Asema. If this is how we speak. We don't speak formal all the time, and it's not really slang either. It's just cutting off words, the ending and the beginning. But it's regular conversation between.
And the other one, Mahaya, the other one, Ayazagan Abogirandos.
Yeah, Ayoshogan. You know what? Ayoshogan means when you go a little ways down or little ways over there. That's where they live. Ayoshogan.
And so growing up the way I did with, English, and I'm wondering, I've been taught, to have specific directions. Go to 1047 McClellan, that's where, that's directions to use. But if you say, Ayazagan Abogidondos, they live right down there. That makes no sense to me.
In English, right? But who can understand? Okay, another thing here that like directions. You're talking directions here. That's interesting. you know, because they'll say, Chugojadi, Legiduis. Nidi wala, di wala ka, Chugojadi, Legidon. Ayoshogan, Chogohangi Lega, my Legiduis. But they'll say, like, you go down the road, you know, and there's a red house, but just little ways across, there's another house. That's where they live. They kind of use landmarks. They don't use, you know, and I'm going to tell you, see, I'm used to landmarks. I can tell you the whole, where everything is in Tulsa, but I use landmarks. I don't use streets, okay? Well, where I live, we live on the, you know, close to Hannah. And I had this UPS man say, can you give me directions? So I gave him, he said, I have never heard anybody give such good directions like you did. Never did I use mileage. I did not use mileage. I used landmarks. And he got to my house. So, guys, Hajiskita, sun measurer. Hokolosat. Huyaniga. Sun measurer, Hokolosat means minutes. Huyanibiga. Boxing, no, not boxing. Monday in Hayatgat. Let's see, it says, in Abogi Dundos. What does that mean? It's not Abogi Dundos. Dun. Yeah. So that's what it would be. Dun. So I will see y'all Monday in Hayat Kachilitagahe. The morning after Monday. Tuesday, my whole God. You know, Tuesday. I had a teacher that told me sometime Tuesday, but it's Monday in Hayat, the morning after Monday. For lunch, and I'm gonna do some more like this, the way I speak now, where y'all can listen, because that's how we speak. And if you go together and you'll hear this, more likely hear the way I'm doing it now than the formal way. Oh, I know. Chihizaga is much. And sorry about this. This screen has its own little mind. Every day we have to mess with it. Sometimes more than others, and sometimes less. Sometimes, man, it'll just come on just like, you know, and then we're thankful for it. But like this morning, like today, it gave us a little bit of problem. But hopefully by then, it'll have a better temperament Tuesday. Oh, I know. Mado, you get again. Are you best?
You're giant, just you hit the others.
Oh, I know. Jimmy, oh, you're giant. You're giant, you hit the guy.